Hello everybody and welcome to this video. I'm McCoy and today we're talking about Vampire Survivors, an indie roguelike shoot 'em up with a, surprise surprise, vampire theme. Now it is important to note that as of May 2022 this game is still in early access, so at times I'll be talking about it as a concept rather than a finished product. That said, it is in a very playable state that gives you a very good idea of what this game will become, and through this video we'll be answering those all important questions. What is it? Is this good? And is it worth your time and or money? Now, Vampire Survivors is the game everyone is, well, maybe everybody was talking about. Despite a pretty quiet release in December at the end of 2021, a few months later in early 2022, it seemed to dominate Twitch, with every man, woman and their dog seemingly streaming it. But as quickly as it shot to the top of the charts, it seemed to drop off, and while it does still have a reasonable amount of traction on the platform, it's not reaching the numbers it once did. Now, I wondered at first whether or not it was just a bit of a fad, like a flash in the pan, but considering the game set me back £2.09, which probably translates as $3 on the other side of the pond, I decided to take a punt on it. And I have to say, this game, for the amount of hours of fun I got out of it, is an absolute bargain. It's a steal. So, what is Vampire Survivors? You start off in a field or location like a library after choosing one of a number of playable, unlockable characters, and then you fight wave after wave of monsters, defending yourselves from things like werewolves, bats, praying mantids, zombies, mummies, and so on. Now, at the moment, there are no vampires in the game despite the title, which I think was intended to be a joke, but who knows if they'll add one down the line, or if there's a huge plot twist coming that you are the vampires. I mean, who knows? Now, in terms of controls, you control your character, moving them around with the WASD keys, and that is it. The only controls you need in the game are W, A, S, and D. You move your character around trying to avoid getting hit, and all of the firing is automatic, which makes it comparable to one of those arcade shoot-em-ups. And the way weapons fire works in a number of different ways. Some weapons, such as throwing knives, are directional, which means you have to face your victim. Others, like the Bible, spin around you, killing things. There's defensive weapons like garlic, which forms a force field. The holy water splashes in your general vicinity. And others, like the lightning strike, hit random enemies. There are also some buffs to pick up, and weapons can be leveled up through each playthrough, but I'll talk about that shortly. So each run starts off a little bit sedate with a few enemies and one basic weapon, but then it quickly goes from this to this. Absolute carnage. But how does it get to this point? Well, when you kill an enemy, some of them drop crystals. Pick up crystals and they add experience points. At the start, you'll only see blue crystals, but soon there are green and red ones that add more EXP points. Your experience progress is measured by a bar at the top of the screen, and when it fills up all the way to the right of the screen, you go up a level. And as a reward, you can choose from a random selection of options and either select a new weapon or buff, or upgrade a previous weapon or buff. Some weapons and buffs also combine and have synergy if fully upgraded, so for example, if you have the whip and the health increase leveled up to the max, it creates a whip that drains life from your foes. Your job is to survive as long as possible, leveling up weapons and buffs. The longer you survive, the more enemies appear and the harder they are, but fear not, because the more you kill, the more experience they drop, and the more you level up, the stronger your weapons are. But it is not an endless playthrough, well, at least not yet. We can speculate what might come in the final release at the end of this video, but for each level, you have a time limit. For example, the first level is maximum 30 minutes, and if you survive that long, the Grim Reaper comes along and just kills you anyway, which is actually how you win. Other things to say about the gameplay is, well, enemies sometimes drop treasure chests which can give you between 1 and 5 upgrades depending on how special the chest is. Then there are some environmental objects which can be smashed to give you things like a floor chicken, which is the developer's name for chicken you find on the floor, and that gives you more HP. There are some other random objects like orbs to attract all of the EXP crystals that you missed. And finally, sometimes you get gold from chests or environmental objects. Gold is the main currency of the game and is used in the main menu to buy things like general buffs like extra health or extra gold drops for all of your future runs, which gives you some progression to the overall experience. Or in fact, you can buy newly unlocked characters to go on a run with. New characters can be unlocked through various achievements in game and each have their own stats and special powers. For example, one has double projectiles and another levels up faster. So again, unlocking those new characters does add another level of progression. Music and graphics wise, it is a nod to the old school era. It reminds me of something like Gauntlet on the Master System and I loved it. It looked great and there was a pumping soundtrack that kept me going. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. A game that you can control with just 4 keys, meaning you could play this game one-handed and eat a sandwich with the other. I'm not sure why you would want to, but it's important to reiterate that it's 4 keys and you're off. So that covers what it is, but is it good? Well, yes, and for me it does something special. But interestingly, I think that the reason that Vampire Survivors isn't played as much now on Twitch as it was when it first came out is the same reason that makes it so special, which is a weird thing to say, because how can something's most redeeming feature also be its undoing? So what is that feature that makes it special and flawed? Well, this game is simple. It knows exactly what it is, a simple concept executed brilliantly. It's simple to love, it's simple to play, it's simple to get addicted to. And on the other hand, it's possibly simple to play too much. And maybe it doesn't have the amount of depth needed to keep gamers coming back for years on end. And I think that that is the main thing to remember. It is hugely addictive for a time, but once you've got the basic idea and you've unlocked a few things and you've done all the challenges, there's not much more at the moment to see. But before I get onto whether or not it's worth it, I do have another thing to say. This game was developed by Luca Galante, also known as Ponkel, and sorry if I didn't do justice to your name in any way, shape or form. Now, the original idea was based on a mobile game called Magic Survival, and I think this origin story is pretty darn interesting, and it gives us an idea of what Vampire Survivors truly is. I recently debated the merits of mobile gaming with a friend, Havoc, while streaming on Twitch. Now, we always debate something every Saturday. For me, mobile gaming has added a number of things that have become staple of the wider gaming industry, both good things and bad things. But let's focus right now on the good. Some of the best mobile games are the ones with the simple concepts that are satisfying and easy to play. Things like that game Flappy Bird, Angry Birds and Fruit Ninja spring to mind. They are easy to learn and they suck you in. There's some progression in some of them with a few simple things to unlock, maybe new levels, but they don't try to complicate things. I think Vampire Survivors has borrowed heavily and perfectly from this mantra. I've heard Vampire Survivors described as a hit of dopamine, and that assessment is pretty accurate because it is fun. The thing is that many of these games are suddenly very popular and then people move on to the next big thing, leaving behind a few stragglers playing it. I mean, seriously, does anybody still play Flappy Bird anymore? I think Vampire Survivors may fall into this trap. Once you learn the ropes and you've unlocked a few things and there isn't much more to see, people may just move on. Now, I'll speculate in a second as to what may come down the line, but there's a question that needs answering because I sound like I've been pretty negative saying that the game lacks depth. But the thing is, does every game need to be as deep as Stardew Valley, Project Zomboid or Slay the Spire? Probably not. The question that really needs answering is it worth it? Is it worth your time or money? And the answer is yes. Yes, yes, yes. I got sucked into it. I pumped around 40 to 50 hours into this. I got addicted. It's challenging, it's simple, and it's fun. But you don't have to think too much. It's the perfect pick up and play title. It's difficult enough to trip you up, but each run is satisfying, win or lose, and there is some progression in terms of buffs and characters to unlock. Now, considering I paid £2.09 for that, that's like 5p per hour of fun, and it is a bargain. And you know what? Probably down the line I will play it again when I've got a quick 30 minutes to spare, so yes, it's hugely worth it. Now, in terms of things added to the game and what we could see down the line, there has already been some things added since its initial release with things like new characters and levels, so possibly we could see some more of that, and then further down the line as we come to full release, Maybe we could see things like more monsters, weapons, levels, characters, maybe a day and night cycle, dynamic weather, an endless mode, story, and so on. But as I said earlier, the game is already solid as it is. Now let me know in the comments below what things that you would like to see. But there it is. This is my assessment of Vampire Survivors. This is a hugely fun game that is worth it. A simple roguelike that is addictive and knows exactly what it is. It comes with no real depth, but hours of fun, and that's not a criticism. And at the price, what you get here is amazing. I honestly look forward to seeing what's added down the line, but from me today, all it leaves me to say is thank you very much for watching, and this is Roy McCoy, out!